Welcome to a special episode where Poppy and I build a figure together. This is a MegaMan figure that I turned into a Gemerl. I got the idea from Hoovalou, who sent me the link to the figure saying it could work well, but it didn't start out that way. I originally wanted to design this with baling wire and cake pop sticks, little plastic sticks for making cake pops for the joints. The shoulders and the hips would be cake pops, and then the elbows and the hands and the knees would all be baling wire that could just bend on its own. Well, spoiler alert, that didn't work out. But here I am building out the entire model in 3D in order to do that, only to find that later I didn't want to go down that route. You can see I'm building out the legs and then the body, all based on some reference. And then somebody gave me some better straight-on reference so that I could work from that instead. And piece by piece, I kind of built out all the different parts, like the torso with its distinctive cut along the bottom of the chest and the 3 dots inside of it. Then I built the hand out of just a cube that I ended up smoothing once I got it into shape and adding fingers to it. And apparently I did some code here. I don't remember what it was for. People seemed entertained by it. I thought it would be boring, but I did something to automate the process. Something about getting pivot points of something. I don't remember. But it helped make the fingers. And then the jetpack was just made out of a cylinder that I rounded out and added some details to. Inside of it, I gave it a bunch more cylinders to have sort of his jet nozzles that go inside of it. Then I made the face. This is kind of his mouth part that goes along the bottom. And there was a lot of back and forth with this, even unrecorded footage. What you see in this video is not the final version of the 3D modeling. This is just what I did on stream. It took a lot of tweaking off stream to get it just right. Here I used just the quad draw tool to start building out the shapes based on that reference, and then extruded it out. And this is one of those things that I mentioned that changed a lot off screen, is I made this way too short. In the final version it gets way taller as far as that star shape on the top of his head. And I just used a sphere and made it into an oval shape, and then cut another oval shape out of that to get the little, apparently it's an eye in front. I read that somewhere. I don't know how true that is. And there it is, the finished body. So I printed these test pieces to start to get the fit for the baling wire and the cake pop sticks that I mentioned. This way I could know exactly what hole I wanted to make it to have the grip that I wanted. Ultimately, this kind of worked, but especially the baling wire didn't work. I cut these shapes that I tested out of the figure, and here's a render of it, by the way. Then when I went to 3D print it, I had all these pieces, and you can see it kind of works, actually. The cake pops are not bad. They add some good friction. I think I could tweak it a bit more. They come off kind of easily, but I think they worked well enough for what they were. But it was the baling wire that just wouldn't stay in the holes well, no matter how I glued them, and you had to have a lot of gap in between them to get any kind of bend. It just didn't work out. And I was going to give up on the project. But then Hoovalou said maybe you should use a MegaMan figure for it. And eventually he found this smaller one that worked for better proportions. And you know, the MegaMan is thick in the legs and it's not quite the same, but it used a lot less pieces, and I think it represents the character pretty well. Before any filming can happen, Bailey has to clean the stove.
Well, now you can't use this because it's showing how dirty the stove is.
Oh no! The first head was too tight, so when I was trying to assemble it, I ripped the neck off. We got a second MegaMan to do. Bought a pot from Ross, so it's cheap, because somebody wouldn't let me use any of our good pots. I got synthetic RIT dye. This is the kind we need. This kind's blacker. I know this is supposed to be for fabric. I'm gonna pour mostly this, but add some of this to try to get it darker. This is graphite. This is black. Rip his head off. Open up his joints as much as I can so that we can make sure it gets everywhere. Should have made this like a cooking show. Bake him up. What is this called when you do this? Not baking. What is this?
Boiling?
Boiling? Yep, we're gonna boil him. But we're not gonna take it to a boil. We're just gonna get it heated. Get it all over his body. Now I'm not convinced that this will work well on the shiny parts because I think it works better on more matte parts of the figure. That's a good thing I got this extra black because we're gonna need a little bit more volume in here. And the graphite dye was literally the last on the shelf, no joke. And they had 3 spots for it. Wow, this is gonna be like half and half to cover the whole thing. Whatever. We'll turn them around and stuff. Because I don't want to mix too much of this together. This is almost 2/3 of the bottle that I used to cover it up. And when I put it back in, it's gonna be mixed in with this, so maybe that's not good. Turn on this. I'm actually gonna get it started really hot at first. Oh, I turned on the wrong one. Turn on the right one. I felt that on my hands. Good thing I wasn't resting them here. Ah! Alright, so Blade's gonna sit there for an hour and film this. Just kidding. You're just gonna let that get hot, but not so hot that it warps the figure. I just want it to start getting hot. I'm gonna shake it around a little. Just try to get his toes. Let's pull him up. See, nothing's happening yet. I don't expect anything to happen yet, but just get him like that. Go right back in. And we're just gonna let that sit for a while and probably forget about it and be like, oh no! The shiny parts actually took really well to it. That's the part that I didn't think would do well. It's looking great. Hot? It's not that. It's not hot at all. Yeah, it's making some progress. Okay. I still want to make sure that he lays flat in there. Get his shoulders a little bit more. Wow, I think this is going to work really well. Okay. Come back in. And then it was time to paint. Here are all the paints and the dye that I used. For the red of the eyes, I used this enamel paint that looks really cool, but it's really hard to clean off. You need to use, I think, paint thinner, but I never do. I just wash with water. Use my normal primers and blues and silvers that you've seen in other videos. And I used a mix of this metallic black and just Craft Smart black for the black parts of the model. Here you can see I'm painting the silver on the hands and then eventually the entire body. Poppy got involved and was very interested in what I was doing. He's such a good helper, never getting in the way at all. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Then I used that mixture of black and metallic black to do things like the jetpack and the front chest piece. It occurs to me that I never primered those previous 2 pieces, but here I am doing things the right way on the head. I wish I had my airbrush set up at the time, it would have been much smoother. So to paint little things, I stick them with sticky tack onto little paint bottles and things, but I'm stupid, so you don't get to watch me do all the detailed yellow parts. These are different size masking tape, which is really handy for getting clean lines on figures. Here I took a very thin one and placed it where I actually did want to paint it. Then I used that tape as a guide for this thicker bit. And then I removed the original piece of tape, and that's where I'm going to paint the yellow line along the bottom of the foot. I sanded it down a little bit to try to get the paint to stick a little better, but as you'll see, it takes many coats, and I should have sanded a lot more. You can see it's barely applying to the smooth surface. Again, I wish I had my airbrush. It would have come out much better. But most videos moving forward will be using an airbrush, so look forward to that. It was really satisfying though when it was time to take off the tape. It left such clean lines. It wasn't perfect in some spots, but most of it came out amazingly here. You want to be really careful when pulling off the tape in case any of it sticks to it and rips other parts off. But this worked out pretty well. And I hate when I do this. There is no good footage of me painting the face. I did such a bad job at this. I'm sorry. And here I am just putting things back together. I used super glue to apply the chest piece and the jetpack and all of the diamonds that go on the forearms and the knees. And overall, I'm pretty happy with the final result. Of course, the MegaMan doesn't have exactly the same proportions as Gemerl in the games and the comics, but this was a much simpler way to create the figure and make a kit for people to use. Pretty effective in toy photography. You can get some good poses out of him. If I were to do this project again, I would have sanded down the chest a lot better and tried to give it a really glossy look. As it currently is, it's just a bit grainy. You can see a lot of the brush strokes on it. As I mentioned, as I'm recording this, maybe like 3 months after the footage of this, I have my airbrush set up and it's giving great results, so I'm super excited about it. I'm glad that I did this project. I didn't care about Gemerl in the first place. I kind of did it just because a lot of people were asking for it. And it was fun to work with Hoovalou on figuring out solutions to all these things. The MegaMan does have some good posing. I broke the neck off the original one, so there are parts that feel a little bit fragile. But overall, you can get some good silhouettes out of him. Now it's time to shout out everybody who watched me make this on stream. Something Sonic related, Mega Prime 369, Pro Tyler Adventures, Votable Globe, Blue Speed, The Great Arlo Man, Sonic Speed Boost, Wisp the Geek, Highwell Plays, Sarab Vaheda, Spider King, Sparklewolf 404, Pink GameCube, YBZ, Swiggy, eScrubby, The Chami G37, Freddy VR, High Speed Chase L4E, Hoovalou, and JL and CC. Thanks for watching.